I'm going to be reading you a couple of chapters out of the first or second book of ADaM KHaUaH about YaRaD. YaRaD was a very tzaddik follower of YaHUaH. Now, if you don't have the book, the physical book, right here, you can go online, and I'll show you where, and you can actually read it there and download it to your computer or your phone. Okay, what you can do, I'll share the link of this up here that takes you there in my description of the video. But this is where you can go online with your phone or whatever. You can get a lot of the other stories, or not stories, but books, removed books within this. But this is it. Let me show you. Typed up here. There in the description up here. All you have to do, you can type this whole thing if you want to, or you could just type this part here, and then it'll take you to their website, and then you just look for the list that shows Apocrypha, and you click on that. But here's the whole link. But like I told you, I will share this link in the video. That way you don't have to do a lot of extra steps, because a lot of folks, you know, they don't like to do the extra steps for their own being. Therefore, I'll kind of othar you out a little bit. Okay, let me zoom back out here and zoom back in a little bit. But this is where you can go if you don't have a physical copy of the book, and you can order the physical copy of the book off of this website too. But we're going to there. I'm going to show you where you can find it on this. Over here on the side, you see on the side here, you can click, you can either scroll down like this with your scroller, or you can just click on the individual pages over here and they'll go like that. But if you come down to page 4, it shows you the matmonim, you know, hidden. And up top, it's got first and it's got second, ADaM KHaUaH. And in English, they're known as Adam or Adam and Eve, but that is, her sham is not Eve. But you can just click on either or these that you want to start reading. Plus, it's got all these other books. Oops, sorry. It's got all these other books here too, and you can just read through those. That you can read off of this website. But we're going to come back up here to ADaM KHaUaH, and we're going to actually go into the second book for what I want to read to you. And I'm going to do it off my screen here because it's easier. It's the same thing in the book, but it's easier to show you than holding the book in front of my hands. Now, this is the second book here. And I need to find the chapter, or the chapters that I was in a while ago. I believe it was 17. Pretty sure. Yeah, 17 through. You should light up the light. We're going to actually read 17 through 19. But I encourage y'all to get these books, or to look at this website and to download it and to print it off. Keep a hard copy, because they're not, these websites ain't always going to be around. Alright, I'm going to find chapters 17, and I'm just going to scroll. I'll tell you what, I'll bring you back whenever I get it. That way, just don't mess with your eyes. Alright, I think I've got that clear enough for y'all to be able to see. Now, I'm just going to basically tell you, this is something that we all have to be aware of as YaLaDYM of YaHUaH. The evil akhad he has a lot of deceptive ways, and that's all he is deception. And this here shows you that even the most Zadik of YaHUaH can be and have been fooled by the rasha akhad. We constantly have to be on alert. If somebody comes to LaNU and pretends to or tells you they're of YaHUaH, and they're delivering to you something, some type of command or some type of request, they just appear to you out of the blue. Then they want you to follow them or do something for them or take something from them, like a gift or whatever. You have to be very cautious of that. Do not trust, any of this right offhand. We have to seriously, the gift of what folks call discernment, the gift of knowing from YaHUaH, being able to see past what is in front of you, is a very amazing gift. It is of utmost importance that we ask that gift of YaHUaH to be given to LaNU. And you'll find out here in this few chapters exactly why. Even though YaRaD, he was extremely close to YaHUaH, he was still fooled by the rasha akhad. And YaDaYuah for YaHUaH's Rabah Salika, his very much forgiveness of our ignorance. Ignorance and stupidity are two total different DaBaRYM. But right now, there's hardly any excuse for either. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Then YaRaD kept his Allah's commandment. YaHUaH arose like a lion over his He fed him in Zadik or Zadok, YaHUaH innocence, commanded them to do nothing without his consent. This was because he was afraid for them that they should go to the YaLaDYM of Cain. Cain is what English calls Cain. Remember Cain and Abel? Well, it's Cain and Habal. He gave them orders repeatedly, continued to do until the end of the 485th year of his Hayy. At the end of these years, there came to him a sign. As YaRaD was standing like a lion before the DaBaRYM of his Abim, PaLaL and warning his Shaitan envied him and produced a beautiful specter because YaRaD would not let his YaLaDYM do anything without his counsel. Okay. The evil akhad, I'll just call him that. I don't like repeating the Shaitan thing, even though Shaitan is the Albrith DaBar for DEVIL. It's just too close to comfort for me. The evil akhad appeared to him with 30 anush of his host. Now, stop here for a second. When we're talking about YaHUaH and you see YaHUaH and then it like YaHUaH of, and it has written in English HOSTS, we don't call YaHUaH of HOSTS because you do your research on HOSTS and it originates from rasha or EVIL. With YaHUaH, it will be YaHUaH of Zabu'uth, okay? But we're talking about this guy here, and we're just going to armies. We're going to call it of his armies instead of even that DaBar there. I don't like to repeat. So the evil akhad appeared to him with 30 anush of his armies in the form of handsome anush. The evil akhad, his own, was the oldest and tallest among them with a fine beard. So here, the evil akhad, you know who he is, his own being, has brought 30 of his shadim with him in the form of, handsome Anush. They stood at the mouth of the cave, then called out YaRaD, who was in the cave. He came out to them and then found them looking like handsome Anush, full of light, very YaHUaH, very beautiful. He was in all their beauty or their looks, and wondered to his own being whether they might not be the YaLaDYM of KN. He spoke in his lob, the YaLaDYM of KN cannot come up to the height of this har. None of them are this handsome as these appear to be, and among these Anush there is not akhad of my kindred. They must be strangers. Then YaRaD exchanged a greeting with them, then spoke to the oldest among them. My Abba, tell me how you are wonderful. Tell me who these are with you. They look to me like strange Anush. Then the oldest began to weep, or the rest wept with him. Then he spoke to YaRaD. I am ADaM, who Elohim made first, and this is Habal, my ban, who was killed by his akhad, whose lob was influenced by the evil akhad to murder. And this is my ban, Shath, whom I asked YaHUaH to give me to comfort me when I no longer had Habal. Then this akhad is my ban, Anush, ban of Shath, and that other akhad is Canaan, ban of Anush, and that other akhad is PaLaL, ban of Canaan, your Abba. But YaRaD remained wondering at their appearance and at the DaBaRYM of the Zakhan to him. Then the oldest spoke to him, do not stand there in awe, my ban. We now live in the land north of the garden that YaHUaH But before the DaBaRYM. He would not let LaNU live there, but placed LaNU inside the garden below that you are now living. After I transgressed, he made me come out of it, or I was left to live in this cave. That was when great and horrible troubles came on me. And when the time of my mut drew near, I commanded my ban, Shath, to tend his well. And my commandment is to be handed from akhad to another, to the end of the generations to come. But YaRaD, my ban, we live in beautiful regions while you live here in misery. Your Abba, PaLaL, informed me that a great flood would come, or overwhelm the whole YaRaD's. Therefore, my ban, fearing for your sakes, I rose and took my YaLaDYM with me. I came here to visit you and your YaLaDYM. I found you standing in this cave weeping. Your YaLaDYM scattered about this har in the heat in misery. But my ban, as we missed our way, came as far as this, we found other Anush below this har, who inhabit a beautiful country full of trees and of fruits, and of all lush green vegetation. It is like a garden. When we found them, we thought they were you, until your Abba PaLaL told me they were no such thing. Now, my ban, listen to my advice. Go down to them. You, your YaLaDYM. You will rest from all this suffering you are in. If you will not go down to them, then arise, take your YaLaDYM. Come with LaNU to our garden. There you will live in our YaPah, our beautiful land. You shall rest from all this trouble that you, your YaLaDYM, are now living in. But when he heard these DaBaRYM from the oldest, YaRaD was confused, went here, there. But at that moment, he found none of his YaLaDYM. Then he answered, then spoke to the old akhad, why have you hidden your beings until this yom? The oldest replied, if your Abba had not told LaNU, we would not have known it. Then YaRaD believed his DaBaRYM were true. Let's stop there for a second. Now these Anush appear unto YaRaD. And, you know, of course, we're reading it, and we know already that it's the akhad amongst his own shadim. Or his own Malakim, you know, the fallen Malakim. He is coming to YaRaD as YaRaD's, you know, Abim before him, as ADaM, you know, as PaLaL, as in the rest of them. You know, their basharim, their bodies, are actually in the cave where YaRaD is. You know, and they have them wrapped and placed in there very reverently. But the akhad is coming to him as familiar rukuth, or what folks would call spirits, familiar spirits. You know, that's why we have to be extremely careful with what we let our physical or our flesh mind believe. But we'll continue with the story. But this is who he is appearing to YaRaD as, you know, not as strangers, even though YaRaD sees them as strangers. They are appearing to him in the mind as his Abim that have gone on before him. You know, as the very Zadik Anush that were there before him. All right. Then YaRaD believed his DaBaRYM were true. That oldest spoke to YaRaD, "Wherefore did you turn about?" He spoke, "I was seeking akhad of my YaLaD to tell him about my going with you, about them their coming down to those about whom you have spoken to me." When the old akhad heard YaRaD's intention, he spoke to him, "Do not worry about that right now, but come with LaNU, or you shall see our country." In other words, YaRaD was looking for his own, you know, children or YaLaDYM to tell about this, to come with him. If the land in that we live, the PaLaLs, and that's not added to the bar, but in land that we live, you know, we shall all return here, or take your MaSHPaKHaH with LaNU. But if our country does not, you shall come back to your own home. Or the old akhad urged YaRaD to go before akhad of his YaLaD came to talk him out of decision. In other words, they wanted to get him to grab him and go, and not let anybody come to interrupt their plan. YaRaD then came out of the cave, and went with them and among them, and they comforted him until they came to the top of the har of the banim of Cain. Then the old akhad spoke to akhad of his companions, "We have forgotten something by the mouth of the cave, and that is the chosen garment we had brought to clothe YaRaD with." He then spoke to akhad of them, "Akhad of you go back, and we will wait for you here until you come back. Then we will clothe YaRaD, and he shall be like LaNU, tube, handsome, fit to come with LaNU into our country." Then that akhad went back. But when he was a short distance off, the old akhad called to him and then spoke to him, "You stay there until I come up and then speak to you." Then he stood still, and the old akhad went up to him, then spoke to him. "One thing we forgot at the cave is this. We forgot to put out the lamp that burns inside the cave, above the basharim that are in there. Do it, and then come back to LaNU quickly." That akhad went, and the old akhad came back to his fellers and to YaRaD. And they came down from the har, and YaRaD was with them. And they stayed by a fountain of water near the houses of the YaLaDYM of Cain, who waited for their companion until he brought the garment for YaRaD. Then he who went back to the cave put out the lamp, came to them, and brought an apparition with him, then showed it to them. And when YaRaD saw it, he wondered at the beauty thereof. And then he was glad in his law, believing it was all true. Now, whenever y'all read the beginning of this book, you will know that none of the Zadik children or YaLaDYM were to ever leave the top of the har, or the MOUNTAIN. They were never to go down to the YaLaDYM of KN, because it was all rasha and full of aum. This is why YaRaD going down from the har and into the land below is of importance to know that that was never ever to happen. That was pure trickery from the evil akhad. But while they were staying there, 3 of them went into houses of the banim of Cain. YaHUaH spoke to them, "Bring LaNU this yom some food by the fountain of water for LaNU, YaHUaH, our companions, to eat." But when the banim of Cain saw them, they were in awe at them and thought, "These anush are yapah, or beautiful to look at. We have never seen such before." They rose and then came with them to the fountain of water to see their companions. They thought them very handsome, that they called aloud their places for others to gather together. YaHUaH, come and look at these beautiful beings. Then they gathered around them, both anush, YaHUaH, Ashah. Then the old akhad spoke to them, "We are strangers in your land. Bring LaNU some tube food, YaHUaH, drink, and bring your own beings and your Ashah, that we can entertain our beings with you." When those anush heard these, the DaBaRYM of the old akhad, every akhad of Cain's banims brought his Asha, YaHUaH, another brought his bath. YaHUaH Rabbah, very much, Ashah came to them, every akhad calling out to YaRaD, either for his being or for his Ashah. But when YaRaD saw what they did, his very nefesh wrenched its being from them, and he would not taste their food or their drink. The old akhad spoke or saw him as he wrenched his being from them, and then spoke to him, "Do not be sorrowful. I am the great clic'on. As you shall see me do, do your own in like." Then he spread his hands and took akhad of the Ashah. YaHUaH, 5 of his companions did the same in front of YaRaD, that he should do as they did. But when YaRaD saw them doing their aun, he wept, and then spoke in his mind, "My abim never acted like this." He then spread his hands, and PaLaL, with a fervent lob, with much weeping, begged Elohim to NaTSaL him from their hands. No sooner did YaRaD begin to PaLaL than the old akhad fled with his companions, for they could not abide in a place of PaLaL. Then YaRaD turned round, but could not see them, but found his own being standing in the midst of the YaLaDYM of Cain. Y'all got to remember, the YaLaDYM of Cain are full of rasha, YaHUaH, aum. He then wept and spoke, "O YaHUaH, do not destroy me with this race. Concerning my abim have warned me. For now, YaHUaH my Elohim, I was thinking that those who appeared to me were my 4 abim, but I have found them out to be rasha acharim, who lured me by the way of this beautiful apparition until I believed them. But now I ask you, O Elohim, to NaTSaL me from this race, among whom I am now staying, as you did NaTSaL me from those rasha acharim. Send your Malak to pull me out of the middle of them. I do not have the kook within my being to escape from among them." When YaRaD had ended his PaLaL, Elohim sent his Malak into the middle of them. YaHUaH took YaRaD, YaHUaH placed him up on the har, then showed him the way. YaHUaH, he gave him chakmah, and then departed from him. The YaLaDYM of YaRaD were in the habit of visiting him hour after hour, to receive his BaRaK and to ask his advice for everything they did. And when he had work to do, they did it for him. But this time when they went into the cave, they did not find YaRaD, but they found the lamp placed out, and the basharim of the abim thrown about. Then voices came from them by the power or the kuk of Elohim that spoke. The rasha akhad in an apparition has deceived our band, wishing to destroy him as he destroyed our band Cain. They spoke, YaHUaH Elohim of the Shamayim YaRaD's, NaTSaL our band from the hand of the evil akhad, or from the rasha akhad, who produced such a great false specter before him. They spoke of other things by the kuk of Elohim. But when the YaLaDYM of YaRaD heard these voices, they feared. They stood weeping for their Abba because they did not know what had happened to him. They wept for him that yom until the setting of, or the going down of the Gadol or. Then YaRaD came with a mournful expression, miserable in mind, Bashar, sorrowful at having been separated from the Basharim of his Abim. But as he came near the cave, his YaLaDYM saw him, then ran to the cave. They hugged his neck, crying, speaking to him, "O Abba, where have you been? Why have you left LaNU? Because we know you did not want to." They spoke again, "Abba, when you disappeared, the lamp over the Basharim of our Abim went out. The Basharim were thrown about. Voices came from them." When YaRaD heard this, he was sorry, and went into the cave, and there found the Basharim thrown about, the lamp placed out, the Abim, their own beings, PaLaL for his NaTSaL from the hand of the rasha akhad. Then YaRaD fell upon the Basharim, embraced them, then spoke, "My Abim, through your intercession, Elohim NaTSaL me from the hand of the rasha akhad. I beg you to ask Elohim to keep me, to hide me from him to the yom of my mouth." Then all the voices ceased except the voice of our Abba ADaM, who spoke to YaRaD by the kuk of Elohim, just as akhad would speak to his friend. "YaRaD, my band, offer gifts to Elohim for having NaTSaL you from the hand of rasha akhad. And when you bring those offerings, offer them on the same altar on that I gave offerings. Even then, you must beware of the rasha akhad, for he deluded me many a time with his specters, desiring to destroy me, but Elohim NaTSaL me out of his hand. Command your that they be on their guard against him, and never cease to offer up gifts to Elohim." Then the voice of ADaM became silent. YaRaD his YaLaDYM wondered at this. Then they laid their Basharim as they were at first. Then YaRaD his YaLaDYM stood PaLaL the entire Layla until break of the Yom. Then YaRaD made an offering, offered it up on the altar, as ADaM had commanded him. As he went up to the altar, he PaLaL to Elohim for chesed salika of his KHaTaH concerning the lamp going out. Then YaHUaH appeared to YaRaD on the altar. BaRaKed him. His YaLaDYM accepted their offering, then commanded YaRaD to take of the sacred fire, or ash, from the altar, or to take from the Kadosh ash from the altar, the or light, the lamp that shed light on the Bashar of ADaM. Then Elohim again revealed to him the promise he had made to ADaM. And then it goes on into chapter 19. We'll go ahead and read some of that. Then Elohim again revealed to him the promise he had made to ADaM. He explained to him the 5,500 years, then revealed to him the mystery of his band coming to the Aret. Elohim spoke to YaRaD, "Let that ash you have taken from the altar to light the lamp abide with you to give light to the Basharim. Do not let it come out of the cave until the body of ADaM comes out. But YaRaD, take care of the ash, that it burns brightly in the lamp. Do not go out of the cave again until you received an order through a vision and not in an apparition you see. Then command your again not to have relations with the YaLaDYM of Cain, and not to learn their ways. For I am Elohim, who does not harbor hatred works of iniquity. YaHUaH gave Rabbah very much other commandments to YaRaD. Then he baraked him, and then withdrew his debar from him. Then YaRaD came near to his YaLaDYM, took some ash, came down to the cave, lighted the lamp in front of the bashar of ADaM. Then he gave his the commandments, just as Elohim had told him to do. This sign happened to YaRaD at the end of his 450th year. As did other wonders, we did not record. But we record only this akhad for the sake of brevity, to shorten our written account. YaRaD continued to teach his YaLaDYM 80 years, but after that they began to break the commandments he had given them, and to do Rabbah things, Rabbah things, very much things, without his permission. They began to go down from the Kadosh Har, akhad after another, mix with the YaLaDYM of Cain in obscene associations. Now the reason the YaLaDYM of YaRaD went down the Kadosh Har will now be revealed to you. We're going to stop there. These two chapters speak a lot, and I've stumbled on some of the DaBaRYM within them, because it's a constant process of cleaning our lashon. There's just some DaBaRYM I will not speak, and then I slip up. I slip up without even knowing I slip up. Therefore, if you heard me speak some DaBaRYM that I usually do not speak, and I usually speak the Abrith instead, I'm sorry, because I slip up too. Of course I do, but I try my best not to. When I see, when I know the pagan DaBaRYM that I see. Okay, I just wanted to let you know, because I'm pretty sure I slipped up in there a couple of times. But this whole reading was to let you know that we must keep our SHaMaR, our guard up, MaSHPaKHaH. We have to, and just because like somebody comes to you and proclaims to be in the SHaM of YaHUaH, you have to watch their DaBaRYM. You have to watch their actions. You have to see the fruit that they bear. You cannot just take their DaBar for it. It has to be given, their actions given in Scripture, but true to Scripture, because we all know the rasha akhad knows Scripture better than we do. Therefore, always be on guard. Always be on guard. Even with those we think are Tzaddik, we have to keep a far enough distance until YaHUaH closes in that distance to let you know that they are part of YaHUaH's YaLaDYM, not the YaLaDYM of Cain or the rasha akhad. Be encouraged. Be definitely encouraged to read Scripture, to seek YaHUaH, to zoom. Zoom is the Abrith Dabar for fast. To purge your bashar, your flesh. You kept hearing me speak basharim or bashar. Bodies. Bashar can mean bodies or flesh or, this or that. That's what I was talking about when it was calling the bodies of ADaM, or the bashar. It means bodies, flesh, on that line. But we have to purge our bashar, our fleshly bodies. Every yom, every layila, thoughts come into our minds that are not our thoughts, and they encourage you to linger there in those thoughts for a while. And then you come out of that and you feel violated, you feel nasty, you feel vulgar, you know, and you knew those thoughts were not your own. And we have to learn to GaRaH, rebuke the rasha akhad, shadim, from our minds, from our thoughts, from our eyes, from the flesh. And we have to gird up our rook. We have to make our rook strong and our flesh weak. YaHUaH. I will continue to read more of this book, but I can't just jump on here and read it. I really truly do have to feel led to do it, or brought to do it, or drawn to do it by YaHUaH, not by the flesh, but by the rook. But I encourage y'all to go and look, you know, this. If you don't have it, go to your computers or your phones, and you can download that to your phone, the whole matmonim that they have listed on there. But printed versions are always better, hardbacks. That way you'll have them at all times. Ani PaLaL YaHUaH BaRaK SHaMaR MaSHPaKHaH. YaHUaH is PaLaL. He's wonderful. Shalom, shalom, shalom from Hilltop Holler. HaLaLUYaHUaH.